Welcome back to Collective Perspective. Time for episode 60. Today, we've had this one written down on the episode's ideas for a long time. Probably have to give credit to Collector's Quest. It's probably where I got the idea from. But they get credit all the time from me. But let's talk about the set. We're going to talk about a few, just like a random handful of like 10, 15 games that we came up with that are outliers, kind of on the edge. Do they count for the set? Because this is a fun argument to have, and I think that you and I will probably agree on most of them, but we'll see. I came up with some, he came up with some, but before we do that, I want to just for our sake write down what counts towards the set, right? So obviously, I'm going to write some bullet points down. You tell me if you agree or disagree, starting with one of every game for the set. One of every game that released on the platform, yeah?
Okay, that's a good start.
You have to define the region, right? So let's say
Yes.
North America, or what do you say?
Yeah, I guess North American.
What else? Physical?
Physical, yeah.
That's an issue I wish I didn't have to bring up.
Ooh. Disagree. Because I actually count like codes in boxes if it got a physical release.
That was one of the ones I had written down.
Do you agree with that or no?
I don't know. We'll argue about it.
We'll get there when we get there, guys.
So one of every game that released on a console, and then you choose your region,
In a
XYZ.
specific region, yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else off the top of my head.
I think that's all there is to it.
So, like, completeness, I guess that... We don't need to talk about completeness. That's going to vary by person, by console. Well, you can go first. You can go through your list if you want, or we can alternate.
Sure, so, yeah, why not? Let's just go from list to list. All right, so first up, I got, and I know we're going to agree on this, but I've seen people making this argument before, and it's probably just because they don't want to spend the money on it. Pokemon Box for the GameCube. Does it count?
You only think that because I spent so much freaking money on it. You think that I'm going to agree with you. I don't know if it should count. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. That is a utility and not a video game, and what we just wrote in our definition was one of every game that released on the console. So counter
that. People count that game Tarot on NES, which is literally just you hit a button and it reads you your tarot card reading. And that's counted toward the NES set.
That's a crazy piece of software that I've never heard of in my life.
No, I mean, I think that, you know what? It had to be rated by the ESRB because it had to be qualified as an appropriate game to be rated E for everybody. A game rated by the ESRB.
Why did it need a rating?
ESRB does not rate software. They rate playable media.
That might have been true in the past, but if I go on the Microsoft Store right now, it's going to say E for everyone on the Microsoft Excel app.
I don't think that's true.
I think that's true. It's a new thing.
Do it right now. Do it live.
It's kind of a new thing.
I don't believe you.
I'm going to mess up my whole setup here. That is a thing, though. I think it's hilarious, but it is a thing.
Hold on. ESRB Excel rating. I do not believe you. Microsoft programs now have ESRB. Okay. So they do, but that was in 2016. So this happened after.
Yes.
Before that, they used to grade software.
Yes.
So my argument stands.
It's very difficult to say. You know, I might even change it to one of every software that released on the console. One of every piece of software instead of game.
Well, then you would have like there's in Japan, for example. There's like GameCube like movies that just released. Well, no, because then you would have to count demo discs if you're saying software, and I would not count demos towards the set.
So the only reason you can give me that Pokemon Box counts is because the ESRB gave it a rating.
Yeah, because they don't rate software; they rate only playable media.
Well, they rate demos.
Do they?
Yes.
True, but those aren't full games.
One of every complete game that released on the console. All right.
So here's an example for you. The GameCube Game Boy Advance player disc. You wouldn't count that, right? Because all you could do is use it to boot up your GBA games.
Yep.
If you play Pokemon Box, yes, you can connect your Game Boy Advance and play Ruby and Sapphire on your television. But there's still an interactive part where you can move your Pokemon in the box. Is that innovative gameplay? No. But it is still interaction with the media.
I suppose. Yeah.
So are we giving it a yes?
I think we're going to give it a yes. Pokemon Box is a yes.
Okay. Good. I was about to quit the show. Next up, we have
I spent
the
too
Louvre
much
Guide.
on it for my answer to be no. That's my argument.
Okay, so the Louvre Guide on the 3DS for the 3DS set. Does it count?
All right. I'm pretty sure we've discussed this. Maybe not.
Because the answer is no.
Did it even come out here?
No, it was only ever available in the Louvre in France, and it came out in different languages, but there is no ESRB rating, and all of those cartridges are region-free, so you cannot associate it with a specific region for a set. So in my opinion, that makes it not count. No rating, and it's not software dedicated to one region.
Yeah, this modern crap where you have like stuff coming from PlayAsia and it doesn't have a freaking PEGI, ESRB, anything, and that stuff gets weird.
Because I don't count any of that personally.
One of every complete game that released on the console and then the region.
Yeah, it doesn't have a region, so.
Man, that's annoying.
And this is coming from a Louvre owner, by the way. So
what a cool guy. So it's not on your
I don't
set
think
list?
it counts. No, I just thought it was cool.
Okay. Doesn't it cost a fortune?
It's dropped dramatically. It went from like 900 to like 500.
Wow.
So now's your time, kids.
Yeah, I mean, based off our criteria, our 2 bullet points here, it doesn't count because it's region free. That's really weird to say.
I mean, to me, that I think that's a fair argument, because then you could argue that each version of the game would be the equivalent, even if it's not in English, right? Because it came out in multiple languages, and they're all region free.
Yeah.
So
also, something that people put on their criteria is, did it release? Could you buy it at stores?
you could buy that. So
yeah. Hang on though. Is that something that we need in our set definition?
I don't know, because, as I've talked about before, famously, Vita collectors usually either collect retail Vita or retail plus limited run Vita.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know.
We can bring it up. We don't have to write that one down.
Yeah, I mean, I say the Louvre doesn't count. What do you say?
I'm going with no.
Okay. I'm glad I convinced you. Again, about to quit the show. Next up, F1 Racing Championship for the N64. This was a Brazil exclusive game with an ESRB rating.
Okay. I knew you were going to bring this up after I mentioned N64 earlier. I just learned about this.
Mm-hmm.
My question is it in the 296?
Mm-mm.
Oh, Craig, you're gonna make me have a really tough decision here. 296
exactly. I'm gonna
is
get
the golden
everybody.
number.
It is the golden number everybody knows, but there was a 7th secret game all along.
That's interesting.
Super weird, right?
All right. So you talk about Invisimals. Was that Central America or was that South America?
That was South America, but it's weird because the ESRB rating for F1 Racing Championship, it's like the letter L. I don't really know what it says because I don't speak Brazilian.
That's the Brazilian rating system.
Mm-hmm. But I've only ever seen it on like that game. I haven't really seen it on much else.
Yeah, I mean I've seen it. Like Brazil stuff is like few and far between, but
okay,
it's
because then like the Invisibles on Vita is just ESRB like regular.
Yeah, that's freaking weird. Oh, I guess I can't speak for modern day Brazilian rating system. I don't know what it's like now. But
Yeah.
but back like you see Master. No.
As a white guy from Texas.
Okay. So I feel like I need to give a little context in case people don't know what the heck Invisibles is. It's a PS Vita game. What's the full name?
Invisibles. I don't know.
Doesn't matter. It's Invisibles on Vita.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that we defined North America as the region, so a South American game does not count. Talking about the F1 game.
And I'm zooming in on it. It's weird, yeah, because as far as I know, I think it's the only ESRB rated Brazilian N64 game, at least the only one that I've ever seen, that's like didn't release here in the States.
I mean, we didn't put ESRB in our definition.
That's fair. You know what? It is just a rating system by the North American rating system.
If you try to change it from 296 to 297, there will be riots, Craig. That's the one set that we
People
have.
will show up at my house that everyone could agree on is the only one.
The only one.
So I typed in Brazilian N64 games, and many did get, ratings like that, but the big difference is that we didn't get that game in the States at all.
Right.
So I think that's where the contention originally comes from of does it count or not, because it's technically North American rated, right? I mean, there's no Brazilian branch of the ESRB as far as I'm aware.
No, I think there might be. Well, I mean, you think it's just E, but in a different language? You think that's what's happening? Like E for everyone? At the end of the day, it didn't release in North America, period.
That's true, but...
Let me try one more thing to convince you.
But then...
If I was in Brazil, I wouldn't count any game with an E logo on it towards the set. If I lived in South America, I would only count games with the Brazilian ESRB towards the South American set.
That's fair. That's fair.
We don't have to agree.
Say no. No, I think I'm going to say no for that. I think that's a good point. If we're not going to count the reverse, why would you count the one exception, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. You got this one, Bird Dog.
It's not a competition.
All right, next up, NBA Elite 11 for the PS3. The game was never officially released. The only copies out there were copies that were leaked out.
Yeah, those things fell off a truck. I actually wrote that one down. I'm going to go with no, just because it didn't come out.
I feel like it does. If you did never have the actual opportunity to purchase the game, then it shouldn't count. Like right now, there's a lot of there's many leaked Vita games like Binding of Isaac, 1001 Spikes. Like even if those games might come out one day, they still haven't technically released. So I would say no to that, because if you never had the chance to actually purchase it, then
yeah, it's not supposed to exist. I mean, that makes you want to say like Cheetah Man 2 we brought up last episode. Does that count? That was literally found in a warehouse. I don't think it was ever sold. Yeah,
and people count it. And I mean, that kind of brings up my next one. So I'll bring that up because I said since you couldn't purchase it, well, the Nintendo World Championship / Donkey Kong Country Competition / Star Fox Super Weekend
/ Excite Bike Entertainment Rally. Oh no, I think that's a different scenario. Anyways,
so these were, games playable on the hardware, at least in North America. None of them are ESRB rated, so I guess that kind of helps decide as well. And you couldn't purchase them. So it's interesting, though, because they are technically just unique software to the systems. So it is, they're more of a game than Pokemon Box, but Pokemon Box we're counting as a game. And these we wouldn't, right?
Yeah, one of them you could purchase. Which
is kind of funny.
One of the NWCs you could get, right? You could literally get it from Nintendo Power if you were a winner. I'm pretty sure.
It was like a giveaway, right?
Yeah.
The gold one, I believe, was the gold one was the giveaway, and then the grays were given away to competitors.
So that makes me want to add a bullet point. I mean, I'm not going to, but do you count giveaway games? There's so few. How many games were only given away as a giveaway, right? That number has to be 3, 5 in the world.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess, released in your region of whatever you're going for, physical game had to be purchasable to the general public.
Yeah.
We could say that's part of the definition, right?
Have we broken any of those yet with the other games?
I don't think so, because NBA Elite 11, we said no, you can't buy it. F1 Racing Champion N64, only released in Brazil, so you couldn't buy it here for this region. The Louvre Guide, region free, so it doesn't belong to a region. Pokemon Box, more of a utility than a game, but rated and sold as a game. So we're on track with our definition so far.
Okay.
And this last one I have.
Hang on,
so
we didn't even answer that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. So no, they don't count.
Yeah, so that's kind of crazy. I think a lot of people count NWC towards the set.
Do they? I've never heard anyone say that, actually.
Maybe they don't. Man, I hate when I say things about NES and I'm wrong on this show, because I know that there are people
like, oh, this kid doesn't know
nothing.
nothing.
I hate being a kid to all these people that listen to us, but I just haven't studied the NES like all these Nintendo age guys.
You're still studying the blade.
I mean, I think that's what the contention is with, like, people count either 676 or 677. I think NWC is that game, but I could be wrong. Could be stadium events. I don't know.
I think it's usually stadium events that people debate. And you know what? That kind of falls in the category of my next clump of games. So we got stadium events, and then it was re-released as something, right? Do you remember the name it was re-released as?
World Class Track Meet.
Yeah, it's a world-class track meet. And then right here I have, on the Wii, there was Mini Golf King of Clubs. That was also released as King of Clubs Mini Golf. Blazing Heroes on the Sega Saturn was also released as Mysteria, The Realms of Lore. And then Midway Arcade Treasures was also released as Midway Arcade Treasures 1. All of these games have totally different names, but they are the exact same game.
They're the exact same game, but they're not the same code, because when you turn on that start menu, that freaking start menu or whatever is not going to be the exact same game, which is ridiculous to think about. Mm-hmm. And that's probably not even true for all the ones you listed. Like that King of Clubs game on Wii is probably every bit of it is just copied and pasted, but okay. NWC, I don't think it counts. We can close that one up, and the other ones that were like it. But freaking, I do want to talk about stadium events because
it's a variant.
Yes.
And I'm tired of pretending it's not.
Yes, I think that you do not need a variant of a video game, but that's exactly what I was just talking about. Some games, like when you boot up stadium events, and it's actually, when you boot up World Class Track Meet, it doesn't say stadium events. So the code on that freaking, that PCB is different all of a sudden. And so you could argue that's a different game. I'm not going to argue that. I'm going to say that's the exact same game for the most part. And that's where it gets fuzzy as heck. Mm-hmm. Those are the same thing. As whatever that King of Clubs on Wii is, that's the same game. And whatever your other example is, those do not count for the set. You just need one of each.
Blazing Heroes and Mysteria, The Realms of Lore, Midway Arcade Treasures 1, and Midway Arcade Treasures.
That Midway is so funny. I love that they did that, but it's so stupid.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I feel like if you count stadium events as a separate release from World Class Track Meet, then you have to count these as different releases as well.
Yeah, but you got to count every variant. Not every variant, but you got to count a lot of variants as a different game then.
Because these are title changes. I mean, what other variants could you think of like that besides title changes? I mean, what games have title changes? I guess if you really want to get fuzzy, you know, there's all the millions of releases on like PS3 and 360. You have deluxe edition, special edition, this, that, the other. That's why I would never want to do anything for those systems. That would be hell to try to differentiate. But that is always something that I thought of that's interesting. You know, it's like, you know, World Class Track Meet is pretty much just a variant of stadium events. So why wouldn't it be the case for other games like this where it's the exact same game, but then you count stadium events and you count World Class Track Meet for your set list.
I'm with you.
So I gotta say that these count.
Yeah.
I say yes.
Wait. Whoa, maybe I missed your argument there. These do count? Stadium events count towards the set?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, hang on. What did you just say? I thought we were on the same page. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying that if you count stadium events and World Class Track Meet as separate games, it's the same thing for these. because they have different titles technically. So they count towards the set because people like to argue that these are variants. And yes, you could say that they are variants, but they are different games because they have different titles.
Right.
So, if you're going to say Stadium Events and World Class Track Meet are both in the NES set, then you have to say Midway Arcade Treasures and Midway Arcade Treasures 1 are separate releases for the same system.
But your personal stance is what?
Yes, I think it counts.
So then I need both Midways for my GameCube set.
Yeah, so you need 555.
You're freaking lying. You're messing with me right now. That's why I'm confused as heck.
It's because you don't want to hear what you're hearing right now because you're upset about it.
Are you messing with me or not? I can't even tell.
No, I think I truly believe that, actually. I think if it has a different name, then it counts as a separate release.
Wow. All right. I was like, dang, we actually agreed the entire episode, but all right, you can have a different
opinion. You can hate me if you want. So what is your argument for not counting it, then?
It's so fuzzy. Like, I don't have a good argument other than I don't want to, right? That's not good enough criteria, though. Right? Like, that's what it boils down to.
So let's backtrack to the Stadium Events. Do you count it or no?
Well, my answer was no, but...
So you say if somebody owns an NES set and no Stadium Events, because they have World Class Track Meet, they still have the NES set.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's fair. If that's how you feel, that's perfectly fine.
Right. But to like, back up my opinion with something besides I don't want to count it, I gotta think about it for a minute, right? Like... I mean, all of this is arbitrary. All of this is like one...
Oh, totally.
It varies by person.
So, my opinion on this is kind of coming from a historical perspective, right? Historically, Stadium Events counts as its own game. World Class Track Meet counts as its own game. So, historically, that rule should follow up to later games in a similar position.
But what does Craig feel? You don't have to just agree with all the
what
Nintendo
do I
age
feel?
people.
I don't know if I agree with them either. It's just, I don't know. I feel like if it has a different... Like, when I was going for Saturn long ago, when I quit and sold a bunch of stuff because, old Craig fashion, I do that, I counted Blazing Heroes and Mysterio: The Realms of Lore as separate games on that list. And as far as I know, most Saturn collectors also do. When I had a lot of Wii games, I remember having King of Clubs Mini Golf. I did not have Mini Golf King of Clubs. But I would have bought it because I would have been like, oh, it's a different game.
Bizarre.
So, you know what? I will respect if somebody says they have a full GameCube set and they don't have Midway Arcade Treasures 1. But in my heart, the GameCube set is 555. Or 559 if you count the double pack releases in the same case.
Lord. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to back that up. I think that I just don't want to count two of the same games that are like 99% the same, They're two different releases. You could buy both of them. They literally fit the criteria, so everything you're saying makes sense, except for like one of every complete game that released on the console. That's where it's a little gray, but yeah, it was purchasable to the public and it came out in North America. It's hard to argue either way. The age-old discussion, really.
The age-old discussion if Midway Arcade Treasures 1 counts as its own release. I'm looking right now on YouTube because I'm like, does it have a different title screen? I think that'll help finalize this decision. Let's see.
I mean, Stadium Events does.
That's true. So, it looks like Midway Arcade Treasures 1 does not have a different title screen. But it's also hard to tell because I'm just going based off of people's YouTube thumbnails. After this is done, I'm going to go play my own copy of Midway Arcade Treasures 1, and I will leave a comment to let you guys know. And if it is the exact same, then I will redact my stance.
So what if...
I'll keep it fair for the people.
What if... Alright, you see all these Nintendo Switch accounts nowadays. They're like, here's Nintendo Switch Sports, and here's Nintendo Switch Sports again, but this version actually came with an updated cartridge. You see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen those accounts?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that two releases?
No, I think that falls under variant category.
Variant? That's the same thing as the Midway.
No, because it's coming in the same case, and you don't really have a way to know. I don't know. This is stupid. I hate this topic. I changed my mind. Scrap the episode. 'Cause now I feel dumb.
I would love to hear y'all's comments though, but we're not done. What have you know about the Max cartridge on SNES?
Max cartridge. That's like that
Military.
Military shooting one, right? Yeah, it doesn't count. You couldn't buy it.
Yeah, I think we've already covered that topic. That's a super cool thing as far as I'm concerned, though.
Oh yeah, it is dope.
Games with two separate. Okay, so you briefly mentioned double packs on GameCube. There's plenty of examples on GBA and GameCube that I could bring up, but Pac-Man Versus and Pac-Man World 2, for example, does that count for the set? Like, you got two games that did release. Dear Lord.
He's dying.
Two games that did release individually. You could purchase them on their own, but there's also a combo pack. So, do you have to buy them separately to count towards the set? Does it matter if you buy the combo pack? Does that count towards the set? Or do you need Pac-Man combo pack and Pac-Man Versus and Pac-Man World 2 as three separate releases towards the set?
So, here is why I totally understand the argument of GameCube being 554 opposed to 558. Or 555 and 559. So, the reason why I am always okay with that view is because, you know, the four games are the double packs. The Darkened Sky, Outlaw Golf, the Pac-Man Versus, Pac-Man World,
Metroid.
The Metroid and yada yada, whatever, Metroid and Zelda. So, if you were to complete, like a disgusting madman, loose GameCube set, you will have, you know, Wind Waker, and you'll have Metroid Prime. The exact same way.
True.
You know? So it's like, I don't think that those count. So I think if you have, you know, say, just Pac-Man Versus in this little cardboard fun sleeve that came in, and then Pac-Man World 2, or you have the double pack with both games, I think either one of those is valid to be like, yeah, I have the full set because I have those two games.
That's my view as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
because, like I said, if you collect it loose, you're not going to be like, oh, I have, you know, the Zelda Metroid combo pack loose.
No, that's the perfect.
Do that. It doesn't work that way. So
I don't think anybody can argue with that. That is as bare bones as it gets, right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought up Switch game cases with digital download codes. Why don't you talk about that since you mentioned the Vita counting towards the set?
Yeah. So, there are two Vita games in North America. At least only two I can think of off the top of my head, so I think there's only two that came in. They have boxes, and they came sealed with just a digital download code and no actual cartridge. Those are Minecraft, and I think it's MLB The Show 14. And part of why I count them is just because, you know, they came in a retail box you could buy in the store, ESRB rated, all the stuff we already talked about. And, you know, especially, you know, back then it was a little bit more novel. It's not like now where there's like hundreds of Switch games that came with just a code inside of the box. I think that the amount of games that are released that way kind of changes it.
No.
Because no, you don't think so?
You can't be flippy floppy like that.
No, I'm not being flippy floppy. I'm just speaking my heart. Because you know what? I was gonna end it by saying I still think that they count, because even if there's not an actual cartridge in there, it was a physical release for the game. So
you can say it because you're never gonna get the Switch set, so you can throw people under the bus all you want. You can say it counts. Even you can make people listening to this go have to pick up 500 loose empty cases with download codes on Switch.
Okay, joke's on you. I have no power in this hobby. So no one's going to listen to me anyway. I have terrible opinions. But no, I don't actually... I actually, personally, if I were to... You know, if I hated myself enough to go for a Switch set, I would still want to buy all those digital-only games. Truthfully. I think that they count because they were in a retail box you could buy in the store, ESRB rated. To me, that is really just the definition of a set. It was a game, it was in the box, came out in the States, and it is a game. So, to me, that's just all it needs to be to count.
I think that I would add the criteria of having to have the physical item inside the case.
Really? So you would say no?
What is a loose Vita set? 2 digital download pieces of paper?
I guess technically.
I mean, yeah, technically that is it.
So, but I mean, people don't collect loose for modern or newer consoles anyway. So
If you brought up a loose disc-based GameCube set, I had to bring up the Vita download codes.
no, that's totally valid. That is a great point, but I don't know. I guess it's like your mind doesn't even really cross that because who the hell would collect something like
Yeah.
that? I mean, I guess there must be somebody. There's at least one person out there that exclusively buys loose Vita games, and I hope you're okay.
Yeah, if I were to add criteria to my own set list, I would say physical, but it doesn't matter because I'm never going to collect a modern console. But for the sake of the
collect
argument,
the Vita though.
Vita's the last modern console I would collect for sure.
3DS?
Which one's newer? Yeah, I would do 3DS. It's
Okay, just wondering.
3DS feels like it could be the next 296, right? Like that's kind of locked in, that number. There's one limited run game you could argue about, right? Like it's incredibly locked in.
There's 5 limited run releases. 2 of them were reprints though, so. And then there's 3 games that only came out from them that way. So the 3DS is definitely locked in. We're not getting any newer 3DS games, that's for sure.
You and Mr. CIB like linked up, right, on that number, and you guys had the same 3DS set number.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we both agreed that no Lurv. So
that's right.
or Louvre.
That's
so
the edge case.
we talked about it because there's one game that we've been trying to decide if it was a variant or not, and I still don't know if we ever came to a decision on that. So, but that's a topic for another day.
Well, we managed to talk about this one for half an hour. That's cool.
I am long-winded.
You got me wondering after the last episode what my next set will be.
So, let me make some suggestions. How about that? That's fun.
All right.
So, I know Super Nintendo's your favorite console, but I don't think you would ever commit to that. So I wouldn't recommend that. I don't think that you have it in you. You're not tough enough to CIB Super Nintendo. And that's okay, because that's a lot of money, and it's very hard. A lot of those games are very rare. You're not going to find that cardboard. That's okay.
I would do it loose if I were to do it.
Joking aside, I really think that GBA is possible. It will just take forever. Because 90% of those games nobody cares about, and you already have like the 10% that people do care about and cost a lot of money. So I do think you could do that, and I think that you would actually enjoy that a lot. After that, I actually really do think you would enjoy something like the 3DS or the Vita, because I know you like handheld stuff a lot like I do. And the DS is a little too much, The 3DS and Vita is much smaller scale, very fun, very great libraries. Obviously, I'm a little biased because those are like my favorite consoles besides GameCube. Yeah. But I do think one that you would really enjoy, because you always say that it's a blind spot for you, and you do like the console, is Genesis. I think you would love going for a Genesis set.
Do you know how many that is? Do you know how many is in the set?
I don't actually. It's less than Super Nintendo, so.
Oh, well, that's a plus.
It's like most Genesis games came in the hard clamshell, so it's easier to find them in good condition than most old games that came in cardboard. You always say how much you love Sega, but it's a blind spot for you, and there is a lot of really great games on it. So I actually think that Genesis would be like a golden goose for you in terms of collecting. I think you would love collecting for Genesis hardcore. I would say Game Gear first, but Game Gear's way too hard.
Oh, Game Gear!
That's why
cool.
I say Genesis.
I love the freaking
It is,
Game Gear.
but it's almost impossible is the thing. So Genesis is at least possible.
Genesis is horrible. It's 709, and SNES is 722.
Oh, I thought SNES was closer to 900. Okay, so still a lot.
700.
Yeah, I feel like Genesis
daunting.
would make you very happy.
700 is daunting as heck. GameCube has been rough. 558 is a lot. I think I don't want to do anything modern. I think 3DS and Vita could be way down the line once I've done a bunch of other sets.
Mm-hmm. But you should start collecting for Vita, because you haven't done that at all yet. So
there's a lot of stuff I should collect for.
But you're buying GameCube trash, baby.
Game Gear is like $230 or something. That's incredible.
Yeah, but the average game is like $200, $300, $400 complete, and like it's like if you can even find them.
Sega CD is like $150.
But most of those suck, so it's not really worth it because it's not fun.
Saturn, Dreamcast around 250 each.
Those would both be worth it too, but I don't see you liking a lot of those games as much as Genesis games. You're a 2D retro platformer kind of guy.
I'm a 16-bit guy.
Exactly. So that's why I just feel like Genesis is a perfect console for you.
If SNES was affordable, dude, especially complete in box, that's what I would do. Like, yeah, if we take out the price for a second and just talk about what I want on my walls.
Snap your fingers and get it. It'd be Super Nintendo, right?
If we talk about what I actually want to own, it would be every complete in box Super Nintendo game and Genesis. I mean, I want everything, but Super Nintendo is probably number one. But I would do it loose, which is already a deterrent, and 700 is another deterrent. It's like I really don't want a loose set of that console. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just anti-loose collecting, as everyone knows by now. So I'd rather not own it if I don't have a CIB. But I'm trying to think of like consoles with smaller libraries because GBA is huge as well. That's over 1,000.
It's like right at 1,000.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because there's not a lot of cartridge-based consoles that are like lower number. You know, maybe TurboGrafx, but that's also very expensive. So
yeah, that's not happening because I'm not buying the number one game. That's the reason I'm not doing that one.
For a Magical Chase.
Dude, Game Boy Color is like $450. Game Boy Color would be easy, I bet.
I don't know. I feel like it's hard to find a lot of Game Boy Color games in good condition. But you don't care about condition, so that's
I hate you. PS2 is only 1,800.
That's it? Rookie numbers.
The PSP is 612 games.
PSP is actually super doable too, honestly.
Yeah, the average price is $2. Those are some cheap games.
Yeah, well, PSP has great games, but I hate playing on the actual console, so it's like hard pass. I don't know.
Let's wrap this up.
So Genesis is next. We're making it official right now.
Let's wrap this up. Thank you guys for listening to episode 60. Make sure to go listen to Craig's podcast on Craig's Game Room on YouTube. And there's a link in the description for his channel.
Thank you.
But yeah, we'll see you guys next month for a couple more episodes.
Take care.